Sport inspires greatness. It creates enduring heroes. Legends delivering moments that reverberate through history.
The Flying Dutchwoman took the 80 meters hurdles in her stride.
But which woman deserves the honor of the greatest 100-meter sprinter of all time? There's nothing like an intense rivalry, maybe even a touch of bitterness to drive improved performance. Take the two fastest women of the 21st century, Jamaicans Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Elaine Thompson-Herah. One-time friends and training partners, now maybe not so much. Fraser-Pryce is the dual Olympic champion in the 100 meters from Beijing 2008 and London 2012.
He's responsible for the mummy rocket, of course.
Thompson-Herah, the dual Olympic champion in the 100 meters from Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020. When Thompson ended Fraser-Pryce's reign, they clocked 10.71 seconds and a toiling 10.86 respectively. Neither of them had ever run faster than 10.70, and they were meters away from the world record of 10.49, long held by Florence Griffith Joyner. Neither of them seemed too concerned about that, and neither did Fraser-Pryce seem too concerned about losing to her teammate.
Being able to stand on the podium with Elaine will be an honor. You know, from an Olympic champion to an Olympic champion is just a wonderful feeling.
But after Fraser-Pryce took a year off to become a mother and a split from the coach who trained them both, it became apparent the friendship had become a little strained. With that, their times tumbled as they drove each other to within touching distance of the long, untouchable world record. Thompson-Herah broke Flojo's 33-year-old Olympic record in 2021, and later that year lowered her personal best to 10.54 seconds. While Fraser-Pryce, at the age of 34 and a mother, responded 5 days later by clocking her PB of 10.60 seconds. Flojo, all flashy outfits, flowing hair, and freaky fingernails, clocked her 10.49 world record in the quarterfinal at the US Olympic trials in 1988. Never mind the allegations about steroids, which have haunted her legacy. The big problem that day was that the wind was howling at her back, but the odometer registered 0. On the same day, around the same time, other events registered a wind assistance of 5.2 meters per second, more than 2.5 times the legal limit. That makes the two modern-day Jamaicans arguably the two legally fastest sprinters of all time. But as Flojo and a string of remarkable women before her have proved, there's more to greatness than pure speed. The charismatic sprinters of today, like Elaine Thompson-Herah and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, have some underappreciated pioneering women to thank for breaking down the barriers that existed when the modern Olympics began.
Just as she took the 100 meters dash, and Maureen Dyson of Britain, as was also expected, came second. The women embraced after the finish.
Because the modern games were not really modern at all. Not a single woman contested the first Games of Athens 1896. The so-called visionary Baron Pierre de Coubertin declaring, "I do not approve of the participation of women in public competitions. In the Olympic Games, their primary role should be to crown the victors." By 1912, Coubertin and his cronies were happy to introduce so-called graceful sports like diving and swimming. But when they had refused to introduce athletics by 1924, a group of women organized their own Women's Olympic Games in Paris. Legal action ensued over the use of the word Olympic, and as a compromise to have the name changed to the Women's World Games, the IOC agreed to introduce 5 athletic events for the Amsterdam Games of 1928, including the 100 meters dash. Understandably, the depth of competition in the pioneering years was shallow, as demonstrated by American Betty Robinson. Seen here, demolishing the field in one of the earliest races of her career. Robinson was just 16 when she won the inaugural Olympic 100 meters for women in Amsterdam. And she was celebrated with a parade when she returned home to Chicago. Robinson was expected to defend her crown at the 1932 Games in Los Angeles, but in 1931, she was critically injured in a plane crash, and it was feared she would never walk again. She eventually recovered and tried to make the team.
These exercises tend to develop the arm and leg muscles that were injured, and also the rest of the muscles that were weakened by her 10-month layoff.
But her legs were not strong enough to crouch on the starting blocks. 4 years later in Berlin, she made the US relay team, running the third leg so she would not have to crouch, and she won her second gold medal. The first of a long line of sprinters who showed remarkable resilience and courage to overcome difficulties as pioneering women of the Olympics. To digress for a moment, let's talk about nicknames. Usain Bolt has a great nickname, Lightning. Jack Nicklaus is forever the Golden Bear. Irvin Johnson is Magic. Carl Lewis is King Carl. Powerful, expressive nicknames given to powerful, expressive men. What did Fanny Blankers-Koen get as a nickname after winning 4 gold medals at the London 1948 Olympics? She got the Flying Housewife. Yes, you could say it was a commentary of the times, but the sexism was hardly excusable, even then. Fanny Blankers-Koen was a married mother of 2 young children when she became the only female to ever win 4 Olympic athletics gold medals at a single Games. But a housewife, she was not. Instead, a committed, well-prepared international athlete who had been waiting for her chance for more than a decade as World War II caused the cancellation of 2 successive Olympics. In 1936, aged just 18, Fanny Koen competed without success at the Berlin Olympics in the 100 meters relay and high jump. But 2 years later, she set a world record in the 100 yards and would have been favorite to win the 100 meters at the Games of 1940, until the outbreak of World War II caused their cancellation. A week after the Games were cancelled, Koen's Netherlands was invaded by Germany. 3 months later, she married her coach, Jan Blankers. 2 years later, she gave birth to the first of her 2 children. A year after that, she equaled the 100 meters world record of 11.5 seconds. And through the rest of the war years, she also set world records in the 80 meters hurdles, the 100 yards, the 100 and 200 meter relays, and the long jump and the high jump. Oh, and in 1945, she gave birth to her second child. By the time the Olympics could resume in 1948, she was 30 with 2 children in tow, and enduring a torrent of criticism. "I got very many bad letters," she told the New York Times years later. "People writing that I must stay home with my children and that I should not be allowed to run on a track with short trousers." Her world record time of 11.5 in the war years had not been officially recognized because it was run against men. But just before the Games, she equaled it again, this time officially, and headed to London as favorite. She not only won the 100 easily in 11.9 seconds, but added the 200 meters, the 80 meters hurdles, and the relay. 11 races in 8 days, and only the second person behind Jesse Owens to take 4 athletic gold medals in a single Games. When Fanny Blankers-Koen was blowing her rivals away at the London Olympics of 1948, the next contender for the greatest sprinter of all time was wearing a leg brace and requiring daily massages to ease her pain. Wilma Rudolph wore a brace and an orthopedic shoe until the age of 10. But at 20, she was doing this.
Moscow meets. Wilma Rudolph shattered women's records whenever she performed.
It's almost impossible to comprehend the magnitude of Rudolph's 3 gold medal haul at the Rome Olympics of 1960, including her world record run of 11.3 seconds in the 100 meters semi-final.
Adds to her Olympic Games laurels when she won 3 gold medals.
Born 2 months premature and raised with 21 siblings, Rudolph suffered double pneumonia and scarlet fever in early childhood. At 5, she contracted polio and her family was told she would never walk normally. At 18, in high school, she became a mother. At 20, she was USA's fastest and brightest star. She'd already appeared in the 1956 Olympics at 16, winning a bronze medal in the 4x100 relay. But with her long strides in Rome, she was unstoppable. She smashed a further 0.3 of a second off the world record in the 100 meters final, clocking 11 seconds even. But the wind assistance was just above the legal limit, so it was not recognized. It was Rome where she met another gold medalist, a young boxer then known as Cassius Clay, and the pair briefly dated before both would later become icons of the civil rights movement. Rudolph lowered her world record to 11.2 seconds in 1961 and retired in 1962 at the age of just 22. She went on to serve as a US Goodwill Ambassador, high-performance coach, and create the amateur sports program known as the Wilma Rudolph Foundation. "The triumph can't be had without the struggle," she said. "And I know what struggle is. I have spent a lifetime trying to share what it has meant to be a woman first in the world of sports, so that other young women have a chance to reach their dreams." Rudolph died of brain cancer at 54, but her memory lives on in the movie of her life and on Wilma Rudolph Boulevard in Clarksville. Recognition of a pioneer who overcame adversity to become an inspiration, and one of the greatest sprinters of all time.
17th in a family of 90 and learned to run fast at dinner time.
When Wilma Rudolph retired suddenly at her peak, the American sprinter who emerged in the space was Wyoming Attias, who equaled Rudolph's world record of 11.2 seconds at the Tokyo Games of 1964 and became the first woman to successfully defend her 100 meters Olympic title in Mexico. But she couldn't match Rudolph's charisma, and nor could 1972 gold medalist Renate Stecher. Stecher became the first woman to break 11 seconds in 1973, but was forever tarred by the conclusive proof of the state-sponsored drug program which shamed East Germany across numerous sports. Drugs would thereafter be the elephant in every athletic stadium. And no one epitomized the suspicion, the confusion, the drama more than this woman. Florence Griffith Joyner, FloJo, the fastest woman in history, and the one who 2 decades after her death still creates the greatest suspicion. In 1984 at the Los Angeles Olympics as Florence Griffith, she won a silver medal in the 200 meters, an achievement to be sure. But she failed to win selection for the 100 meters and didn't even make the US relay team. A look at her physique shows how she changed from the fit but lean figure of '84 to the muscles upon muscles of FloJo in Seoul 1988. And consider the stats. At the end of 1987, aged 28, she had broken 11 seconds for the 100 meters only twice in her career. Just 7 months later, she'd smashed that mark by more than half a second. In the 200 meters, she had lowered her best by more than 6/10 of a second. Her 100 meters world record of 10.49 seconds was set at the US Olympic trials and has been widely discredited because the odometer measuring wind assistance registered 0, despite a gust blowing at her back. Coincidentally, her winning time in Seoul of 10.54 seconds was not recognized because of a 3-meter tailwind. She won the 100 easily, but by the time she followed up with her world record 21.34 seconds in the 200 meters to complete the double, Ben Johnson had been chucked out of Seoul after testing positive. Although FloJo steadfastly denied any wrongdoing, the whispers became roars about the legitimacy of her performances. She was angered when Carl Lewis spoke at a US university and linked FloJo and her former coach, Bob Kersey, with illegal drugs, claiming he was unaware that a student reporter was taping his remarks. And damaged when another former teammate, Darryl Robinson, told German magazine Stern in a paid interview that he had sold FloJo growth hormone. With her husband and coach, Al Joyner, FloJo not only denied the drug claims, but actively preached an anti-drugs message.
That accusation, it hurt me, but it didn't bother me. I know that I'm a champion. I am anti-drug. I do not use drugs. I do not know anybody that does.
The controversy did little to impact her fame. She settled into a retirement from athletics and began raking in millions in endorsements and appearances. She also designed uniforms for the Indiana Pacers NBA team and made guest appearances on several sitcoms or soap operas. In 1996, Griffith Joyner contemplated a comeback to competitive running, but plans were scrapped when she suffered a seizure while on a plane. And on September 21, 1998, she died in her sleep at home, aged just 38. FloJo was found to have suffocated during a severe epileptic seizure, the result of a congenital vascular brain abnormality. Her death triggered more suspicion about the role drugs might have played. But an autopsy found only small amounts of 2 over-the-counter medications and no evidence of any drugs that might have contributed to her death. Said Al Joyner, "My wife passed the ultimate drugs test." For more than 30 years, her world record seemed the impossible quest, until 2 Jamaicans pushed each other closer and closer to the mark. The greatest female sprinter of all time doesn't have to be the fastest. There are many variables, not least of them the reliability of the equipment used in the ratification of Florence Griffith Joyner's long-standing world record of 1988. Flojo's star burned bright for just a short time in her career, and the question marks that remain make it tempting to look elsewhere for the GOAT. The modern stars, Elaine Thompson-Herah and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, mount compelling cases, with the taller, younger Jamaican emerging with the faster record. But does that make her a greater competitor than the 5'0" pocket rocket Fraser-Pryce, who has campaigned at the very top of her sport for a decade and a half and won 5 world championships and stood on 22 world or Olympic podiums to Thompson's 10?
I'm a mom, and here I am breaking barriers and just inspiring a nation of women who continue to dream and continue to believe that anything is possible if you believe. You know, coming back after having a baby is possible. You know, running fast after 30 is possible. So here I am.
It's that record into her 30s which might drive her biggest opponent to even greater heights. Thompson-Herah, after all, is 5 years younger and just 5/100ths of a second off the world record. She has said beating Flojo's 10:49 is the ambition which drives her.
I think when that day comes, when I nail it, I'm gonna nail it, but I'm just getting the work right now, and wherever I get that race, just get it right.
But even beating that time might not be enough. What of the advantages the modern Jamaican pair have had with advances in training techniques, diet, track conditions, and other improvements available to the two modern-day contenders? Just as the biomechanical analysis has found that Jesse Owens in the 1930s was almost the equal of Usain Bolt in the 21st century, so can the times of the pioneering female sprinters be upgraded. 3 remarkable women in particular stand out for the way they overcame hardship. Betty Robinson, the first Olympic sprint champion at just 16, survived a plane crash and returned to win a second gold 8 years after her first. Fanny Blankers-Koen survived the German invasion of her homeland and raised a young family while training and competing through the war, before her golden tour of London at the post-war Games. Wilma Rudolph survived polio, scarlet fever, pneumonia, and racism. She wore a leg brace as a child and won gold as a single mother. Try writing that script and not be laughed out of Hollywood. She also quit at her peak to devote herself to community service and civil rights. An icon of sport. That's why we're saying Wilma Rudolph is the greatest female sprinter of all time.
Equals her own world record, adds to her Olympic Games laurels when she won 3 gold medals.